It was an ordinary day at the bustling airport. The terminal was alive with the usual energy, passengers rushing to their gates, the distant hum of luggage wheels on tile floors, and the soothing yet commanding voice of the announcer calling out departures and arrivals. But beneath this veil of normalcy, something extraordinary was about to unfold, something that would leave everyone watching in disbelief. Standing at the check-in counter was a young man, his posture calm but confident. He was tall, composed, and unmistakable. It was Barron Trump, the son of the former First Lady of the United States. Wasn't looking for attention. He stood quietly, waiting his turn, like any other passenger. But the energy around him began to shift. The check-in staff behind the counter exchanged glances. A whisper here, a pointed look there. Something wasn't right. One of them leaned toward another, murmuring words that Barron couldn't hear, but could sense. The unease was palpable. Barron handed over his ticket with a polite smile, but instead of processing it, the staff member hesitated. Their hand hovered over the keyboard before they leaned forward, their voice low but firm. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't allow you to board this flight." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Barron blinked, taken aback. The other passengers nearby turned their heads, their curiosity piqued. Whispers began to ripple through the terminal. "Excuse me?" Barron asked, his voice calm but laced with disbelief. The staff member didn't meet his gaze. "We've been instructed." "Well, there are concerns. You'll need to leave the terminal." Barron's expression didn't waver. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he simply stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. Around him, the whispers grew louder, a murmur of confusion and judgment from onlookers. Passengers began to speculate. "Is that Barron Trump?" one person whispered. "Why are they kicking him out?" another asked. Without a word, Barron stepped aside. He pulled out his phone, his fingers moving across the screen with purpose. Those around him watched intently, their curiosity mingling with unease. Who was he calling? What was going to happen next? And then, just minutes later, the atmosphere in the terminal changed. Outside the large glass windows, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. The doors opened, and out stepped Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States, moved with an air of elegance and authority. Dressed impeccably, her heels clicking on the tiled floor, she exuded a calm yet commanding presence. As she entered the terminal, heads turned and conversations hushed. It was as if the very air in the room had shifted. She walked straight to her son, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. The bond between them was unmistakable, a silent exchange of strength and understanding. Then, she turned to the staff behind the counter. Her voice was calm, controlled, but there was no mistaking the steel in her tone. "Can someone explain to me why my son has been treated this way?" The staff, who had moments ago seemed so confident, now looked flustered. They stumbled over their words, offering vague explanations that did little to justify their actions. Their earlier resolve crumbled under Melania's unwavering gaze. By now, the scene had drawn a crowd. Passengers gathered, some recording the confrontation on their phones, others murmuring in disbelief. Support for Barron and Melania began to grow. People whispered words of encouragement, their disapproval of the staff's actions evident. The airport manager arrived in a hurry, his expression a mix of panic and embarrassment. He approached Melania, apologizing profusely. "Mrs. Trump, I assure you, this is not how we usually conduct ourselves. There seems to have been a misunderstanding." Melania raised an eyebrow, her calm demeanor unshaken. "A misunderstanding?" she repeated. "My son was asked to leave for no valid reason. This is not a misunderstanding. This is unacceptable," the manager stammered, attempting to explain, but the damage was done. The passengers who had witnessed the incident were already taking to social media, sharing videos, and condemning the treatment Barron had received. Through it all, Barron remained composed. He stood by his mother's side, his expression one of quiet dignity. It was clear that he had learned from her example: grace under pressure, strength without aggression. At one point, Melania turned to her son, speaking softly but audibly enough for those nearby to hear. "Barron, remember this. Dignity is not something others give you. It's something you carry within yourself, no matter the circumstances." Her words struck a chord, not just with Barron, but with everyone who heard them. The crowd, now fully behind the Trumps, began to applaud. The sound grew, a ripple turning into a wave of support. As the situation resolved, with the manager personally ensuring Barron could board his flight, the story was already making headlines. News outlets picked it up within hours, and the videos went viral. Social media exploded with discussions, many praising the poise and grace with which Barron and Melania had handled the ordeal. But beyond the headlines, beyond the viral videos, one message stood out, a message of resilience, dignity, and strength in the face of unfair treatment. Barron Trump and his mother had turned a moment of adversity into a powerful reminder that true grace is not about retaliation, but about rising above. As Barron and Melania walked toward their gate, the terminal erupted in applause. It wasn't just for their status or their name, it was for their example, for showing everyone that even in moments of great challenge, it's possible to choose grace over anger, understanding over division. For the airport staff, it was a day they would never forget, a moment of reckoning that left a lasting impression. And for the rest of us, it was a story that reminded us of the power of composure, the strength of character, and the enduring bond between a mother and her son,